Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another tropical update here. We have major updates on now. Tropical Depression 1E is now confirmed not too long ago. And this very in the coming hours, in around 12 to 24 hours, we will have this become Tropical Storm Arthur. We have extreme updates. We now have tropical storm watches for the U.S. North Carolina coast. This is absolutely crazy, and it's a lot less likely to actually have landfall, but it's likely it still will skim the Outer Banks and bring in a ton of flooding throughout the eastern coast. If you guys are new to the channel, smash that like button. Also, smash the subscribe button. I will have multiple more updates on this very close to Tropical Storm Arthur. We have major updates on the NHC, also major updates on the intensity guidance, on the cone, and all of that. So be sure to stay tuned for the whole video, because that's where we have all the information in this update. Also, if you know anybody that wants to know about this, please share the video and also tell them to subscribe. But without further ado, let's get this major tropical update. So here we have Tropical Depression 1E. It has now been confirmed. Here it is, right here, moving off the coast of Florida, and very likely going to be taking a turn to the northeast and possibly skim the Outer Banks. So we still can't rule out the possibility for landfall, but it's not as likely. So here we have and moving northeast at 13 miles per hour, which is a decent pace for a tropical depression. And we have maximum sustained winds at 35 miles per hour. So as you can tell, it is just getting to these tropical depression force winds here. And then we have it at 1,008 millibars. So generally, it's obviously going to be very weak as it has just gone through tropical depression. So here we are. Let's go ahead and check out the warnings and cone here. So here we have it as of 5 p.m. today. Here it is right now moving up the coast of Florida, or way off the coast of Florida. And as you see, we have tropical storm watches for the North Carolina coast in this yellow. This is absolutely crazy. That's going to be for the Outer Banks and for all the coastal areas of North Carolina, or the except for the southern part. So if you're in the yellow, this is where you have tropical storm watches. So very likely you guys will be seeing tropical storm force winds. Doesn't seem that it's going to be making direct landfall, but it's going to get very close to the Outer Banks, within 20 miles from landfall. So it may not make direct landfall impact, but we will be seeing possibly the outer wall, the eye walls, and all of that moving over. So definitely be seeing still a big flooding threat and very strong winds, which is exactly why we have tropical storm watches. This is not something you see in May. And as you see, that timeline is going to be around the afternoon hours of Monday, when it's going to be very powerful tropical storm here. So this is basically the cone right here. Let me put a pink and a bigger shade or a thicker shade. This right here is the cone of where the system can go. And as you see, the cone is over North Carolina. So this thing can go anywhere in this cone, but it's expected to go right here. But this is the whole area of where it can go. So it can go here, it can go here, it can go right on the edge of this. So the North Carolina area is still in the cone, so it's still likely for a landfall. So anywhere in this shaded, anything inside of the shaded pink is likely in the potential for possibly seeing the worst of it, the eye going through this. And if you're, obviously this is over the North Carolina coast. So this is where we obviously have those tropical storm watches. As you now look at the potential for tropical storm wind speeds, we have a 60 to a 70% chance that's going to be right here in that middle of the cone there. And we have the Outer Banks in that 40 to 50% chance. So it seems like it could possibly just skin those Outer Banks, and it could possibly maybe make a landfall in the Outer Banks, which is technically will be a U.S. landfall. So a decent probability for seeing tropical storm force winds, which is more than 39 miles per hour. That's going to be our highest probability at a 60 to a 70% chance there. Let's go ahead and check out the timing. Really, the timing here. It'll be lasting really around, of course, the Sunday and Monday. So this is Monday 8 a.m. there, and Sunday 8 p.m. So this is basically the time period of when it could definitely affect these areas like the Outer Banks. So definitely need to watch out between 8 p.m. on Sunday and 8 a.m. on Monday. This will definitely be the area of focus for these areas like the Outer Banks. And here it is right now. It's going to be moving quite actually at a decent pace here, at a pretty fast pace. Right now it's only moving at 13 miles per hour to the northeast, but very soon it'll possibly be moving around 20 miles per hour likely, or maybe even more there. So this is what we're looking at here. Let's go ahead and check on the intensity guidance here. So this is actually a new update here. Here we have here we are looking at the intensity guidance. So we still have that 12-hour to around 24-hour timeline of our best probability of seeing this tropical storm, and a lot more models are showing it getting to a high-end tropical storm. So this could very likely become possibly have 50 to maybe 60 knots, which is around 65 miles per hour. So a really strong tropical storm. And as you see, it's going to be strengthening quite quickly, and then it's going to weaken a bit slower than it did weaken. And as you see, looks like we can possibly see this weaken in about 96 to 120 hours. So this is definitely a long-lasting tropical storm, if you say that. And as you see, it seems like it's definitely going to be a high-end tropical storm, not a weak one. And it's definitely going to be quite a strong tropical storm, and a lot more models are continuing to show this rise. Not a single model shows it at its highest, showing it lower than 40 knots. So this is definitely going to be more than 45 miles per hour when it's at its strongest point. As we check out the GFS radar, here we have in the next 6 hours moving up the Florida coast, bringing extremely heavy rain throughout the Atlantic, parts of the Bahamas, and the far coastal areas of Florida. The GFS model is not showing a very broad, like a huge, well-defined landfall, but it is showing it going over the Outer Banks here. So that is technically a U.S. landfall right here. If you guys see it, this is going right over the Outer Banks, and that exact area is still on the cone. And this is exactly where we have tropical storm watches. So seeing that the GFS is still showing a U.S. landfall, but a little bit more less of an effect on North Carolina. So it's going to be more of the Outer Banks, so not like the inland areas like we saw earlier. And then that'll be continuing to move up the East Coast, and possibly bringing a lot more rain for parts of New Jersey. So seeing that it kind of has like that Sandy-like a track, or a similar track to Sandy. As we now take a look at the CMC in the next 36 hours here. Here it is going to be getting very close to the North Carolina coast. Here we have that low pressure system sitting right there. All these outer bands with extremely heavy downpours there cause a lot of flooding. And this also shows it actually the low pressure system's right here. So this is actually going to be going just to the east of the Outer Banks. So this is still very likely going to impact North Carolina, but a little bit less than the GFS. GFS has a direct landfall or direct impact. This is showing it's skinning the island of the Outer Banks, and then this will kind of avoid the New England area there. And then look at the icon model here. This is also showing getting very close to the North Carolina coast, and this actually shows it just within miles of the Outer Banks. So as you see, it seems like the possibility for seeing a landfall, U.S. landfall, is a bit smaller, but we can't rule out the possibility because they aren't showing it way off in the Atlantic. They're showing it just to the east of the Outer Banks. So I'm not going to rule out the possibility. I think it could definitely skin the island of the Outer Banks. Here we have the winds right now. Going to be seeing around 28 knots, like we saw. We are seeing 30 knots as of right now, maximum sustained winds. And as we now get in the next 54 hours here, when it does possibly make landfall over the Outer Banks, it is bringing extremely heavy, strong winds. Going to be seeing up to 36 to around 40 knots there. So definitely showing a pretty strong system there. And as it does move up the Atlantic coast, it strengthens up to 50 plus knots there. Let's go ahead and check the CMC here. See how strong this system is looking at. It is still going to bring some strong wind for the Outer Banks, and actually going to be strengthening up to possibly 56 knots. So this is definitely going to be a very high-end tropical storm by the time it does pass the Outer Banks. So this is basically our time period, maybe 60 hours. That's our time period for if it does make landfall or just passes North Carolina. And as you see, it's going to be a bit of a weaker end, but as it passes that point, it's going to be a lot stronger, and it's going to strengthen a lot more. As we now check out the vorticity here, the cyclonic, if there's a cyclonic signature, here we have a decent amount of vorticity, which is exactly why now it's a tropical depression. Confirmed, we are seeing that tropical-like wind gust and all that vorticity when the flyers went out. That's going to be heading straight for the North Carolina island and North Carolina coast on the vorticity signature. And that's going to go straight over the Outer Banks there and extremely close to the New England area. That's going to kind of fall apart right before. So definitely a crazy system. But I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Of course, I'll be doing multiple more updates, of course, on this. But definitely seems like It's crazy that we had tropical storm watches right now in the North Carolina coast, and this is going to be a let me tell you, this is going to be a very, very close call to landfall. It's going to be a very close call. Let me just tell you that. Very interesting. But either way, it's definitely going to bring in a lot of rain no matter what, since it is such a close call, and it could possibly be a skin to very broad U.S. landfall. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please do not forget to like and subscribe, and bye, guys.